The Pearl's Secret. Griet adjusted the blue and yellow turban atop her head, glancing at her reflection in the polished silver platter. Her heart raced as she heard Master Vermeer's footsteps approaching the studio. With trembling fingers, she fastened the borrowed pearl earring to her left ear. "Are you ready, Griet?" Vermeer's voice carried a hint of impatience. "Yes, sir," she replied, facing the painter. As their eyes met, Griet felt a familiar flutter in her chest. Vermeer's gaze seemed to pierce through her, seeing beyond the maid's uniform to something deeper within. He nodded approvingly at her appearance, and gestured for her to take her place by the window. "Remember, stay still," he instructed, picking up his brush. Griet assumed the pose they had practiced, a quarter turn, eyes fixed on a point just beyond Vermeer's left shoulder. As he began to paint, her mind wandered to the events that had led to this moment, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. 6 months earlier, Griet had arrived at the Vermeer household as a maid, tasked with cleaning the painter's studio without disturbing his meticulous arrangements. At first, she was terrified of making a mistake, but soon she was captivated by the world of pigments, canvases, and light. Vermeer had noticed her interest and begun to ask for her opinion on his works in progress. Griet discovered she had an eye for composition and color, much to the painter's delight and his wife Katharina's growing suspicion. "You understand light," Vermeer had told her one evening as they mixed paints. "You see the world as I do." Those words had kindled a warmth in Griet's chest that refused to fade. Griet struggled to contain the emotions swirling within her as she sat for her portrait. She knew this painting was different from Vermeer's usual commissions. It was a secret shared between artist and subject, hidden from Katharina's jealous eyes and the household gossip, a thrilling risk that added a layer of intrigue to their relationship. The pearl earring was not just a forbidden treasure borrowed from Katharina's jewelry box, without permission. It was a symbol of the bond between Griet and Vermeer, a constant reminder of the danger they courted, and a testament to the power of their shared secret. As the hours passed and the light shifted, Vermeer worked in silent concentration. Griet's muscles ached from holding the pose, but she dared not move. This portrait was more than paint on canvas, it was a declaration of all that remained unspoken between them. Finally, as the last rays of sunlight faded, Vermeer set down his brush with a satisfied sigh. "It's finished," he announced. Griet rose slowly, her limbs stiff from stillness. She approached the easel with trepidation, eager and afraid to see how Vermeer had captured her. The girl in the painting stared back at her with luminous eyes, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. Griet gasped softly, recognizing herself yet seeing something more, a depth and mystery she had never associated with her plain features. The beauty of the painting filled her with admiration and awe. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Vermeer stood close behind her, his breath warm on her neck. "You're beautiful, Griet. I merely captured what I see every day." She turned to face him, their bodies mere inches apart. For a moment, the air between them crackled with possibility. Griet's heart pounded so loudly she was certain Vermeer must hear it. Their relationship was not just that of a painter and his subject, but of two souls who had found a deep connection in the world of art. But a sharp knock at the studio door broke the spell. They sprang apart as Katharina's voice rang out, "Johannes? Are you still working at this hour?" Vermeer cleared his throat. "Just finishing up, my dear. I'll be down shortly." Griet hurriedly removed the pearl earring, wincing as it caught on her earlobe. She pressed it into Vermeer's hand, their fingers lingering for a heartbeat longer than necessary. "You should go," Vermeer said softly. "And Griet, thank you." That night, as Griet lay in her tiny bed in the attic, she touched her earlobe where the pearl had hung. In the morning, she would return to her duties as a maid, the momentary elevation to the artist's muse, nothing but a bittersweet memory. The thought of the portrait soon being sold, disappearing into some wealthy patron's collection, filled her with an inexplicable sense of loss that lingered long after the sitting was over. That night, as Griet lay in her tiny bed in the attic, she touched her earlobe where the pearl had hung. In the morning, she would return to her duties as a maid, the momentary elevation to the artist's muse, nothing but a bittersweet memory. But in the quiet darkness, she allowed herself to dream of a different life, where a girl with a pearl earring could step out of a frame and into a world of color and light. Years passed. Griet married a local butcher, raised children, and grew old. But she never forgot the day she sat for Vermeer and glimpsed a version of herself she had never known existed. On her deathbed, surrounded by her family, Griet's thoughts drifted to that long-ago afternoon in the studio. With her last breath, she smiled, remembering the girl with the pearl earring and the secret she had carried in her heart for a lifetime. Unbeknownst to Griet, her portrait hung on a wall in a museum across the sea. Day after day, visitors paused before it, captivated by the girl in the painting's enigmatic gaze. They wondered about her identity, relationship with the artist, and the story behind her mysterious smile. Little did they know that the true masterpiece lay not in the brushstrokes on canvas, but in the fleeting moment shared between a painter and his muse, when art and life intertwined, creating something beautiful and timeless. And so, Griet's secret lived on, preserved in pigment and light, inviting each new viewer to imagine their own story of the girl with the pearl earring.